欢迎回到节目现场。今年的6月9号，正逢毛利新年Matariki之际，毛利电视台正式改名为Whakaata Māori，摆脱原本的英语名称，宣告毛利族人的主体性，更要在未来持续真实的反映出毛利社会的现况。今天我们非常荣幸邀请到Whakaata Māori的执行长 Shane Taurima 来跟我们分享毛利电视台正名背后的故事以及对未来的展望。Kia ora, Shane. Congratulations for the new name, and it's our honor to have you to our show. So first, could you please say hi to our audience?
Kia ora, which means best wishes to you in my indigenous language, Te Reo Māori, or the Māori language, from here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. My name is Shane Taurima. I'm the Tāhuhu Rangapū, or Chief Executive of Whakaata Māori.
Since the Whakaata Māori established 18 years ago, why decided to change your name into Whakaata Māori this year, and what is the purpose and the goal behind the name changing?
So Whakaata Māori was established back in 2004, so we celebrated our 18th birthday this year. When it was first set up, its name was appropriate at that time because we were set up as a television service. I think, though, that over the past few years, like TITV and others, we've had to adapt to new ways of delivering content and look at different platforms outside of television that we use to share our content with viewers. And so it was appropriate from that sense that we look to change the name because we're not just working in television, we're working across multiple platforms, and there are new technologies being created every day. So we wanted to move away from television. I think also the other point is that we really wanted the name of our entity or our organisation to be a Māori name, to be in our Indigenous language. So we thought about Whakaata Māori because we've actually been using Whakaata Māori for some time now, but it hasn't been our official name. So we thought that 18 years later, it's the right time to change our name into Māori so that we have an Indigenous name. And we chose Whakaata Māori because it's a name that we have been using for some time now. It's a name that people are familiar with. And I think it also represents the new ways of sharing content as well. And at its heart, it talks about what our key role is. So that's the key reasons why we've made the change. And we're really, really proud to be able to do this. It's the first Indigenous name that we're aware of we have for an Indigenous broadcaster worldwide. So that's a great thing that we're very proud about as well.
As we know, Whakaata means to mirror, to reflect, or to display. How did the name come about? Did the name Whakaata Māori reach a consensus with the Māori society?
Well, first of all, I think that the meaning of Whakaata, as you say, is about reflection. It's about exhibiting and when I think about that, one of our key roles at Whakaata Māori is to promote and showcase our Indigenous language, our culture, through our stories. And so we do that by reflecting on ourselves, on our history, on our future, and we use our language and culture to be able to tell those stories. So I think the name is really appropriate. In terms of engagement with our communities and people to ensure that they support the name. What was interesting is that when we launched the new official name, many of our viewers said, "Oh, we always thought that was your name, and we've always been using that name for a very long time." And so the feedback that we've received from our viewers has been incredible.
So when proposing the idea of changing name, did the Whakaata Māori encounter any challenges or obstacles?
Not really. I think that there was enormous support for the decision and the move to change our name. There were a couple of concerns, I have to say, around pronunciation and brand awareness. So if we think about how we pronounce the name Whakaata Māori, it may take a few tries to get it right. The other thing too is I think brand awareness, when you've been known for 18 years as Māori television by the majority of the country and in the world, there will be some time required to inform people of the change, to encourage people to use the new name. So those are all things that we're well aware of, I think. But overall, I think that there was huge support for the shift, and I'm really pleased about that.
So back in 1972, a Māori language petition was presented to Parliament requesting the recognition of Te Reo Māori. 50 years later, how will Whakaata Māori continue to revive or to promote the Māori language?
Thank you, because that's a great question. It's great because the Māori language petition, which was presented to Parliament 50 years ago, was probably the precursor or the beginning of a movement that started here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And it was started mainly by those that didn't have the opportunity to learn or to be raised in our language. And they wanted, one, the government to actually do something about the language before it became extinct. They also wanted the language to be recognised as an official language of Aotearoa, New Zealand. And they wanted the language to be taught in schools. Now, when I think about it, the language was then made an official language in 1987, so 15 years later after the petition. And so many other great things happened with the language and for the language as a result of the language petition. Whakaata Māori exists because they've done the work. It's now our opportunity to continue with that legacy, to ensure that we are creating the world that we want to leave behind for our children and their children and their children.
So last year you launched a Multiplus application, and through all this year your platform become more diverse. So based on your observations, how to promote Māori issues to the non-Māori people and the mainstream society to really implement the ethnic mainstreaming?
We're not just reaching out to Māori. Obviously they're our key audience, but we're reaching out to all peoples and anyone interested in Māori content, Māori views, Māori stories, Māori perspectives. And what we have here right now in Aotearoa, New Zealand, I think is a real uprise in interest with Māori and non-Māori. Because it's, believe it or not, many Māori don't actually speak the Māori language because of what's happened to our language over many, many years. There's a very small fraction of Māori people that actually speak the language. It's about 1 in 5 can speak the language. So there are still many Māori that we are trying to inspire and encourage. And I think we do a really good job at that. But, you know, there are still many, many more people that we want to be able to connect with and inspire. And that probably still is a big mission for us moving forward.
So changing the name is actually an act of introspection and self-positioning. So what ideas do you want to express through this action? And what are your expectations for the global indigenous media organizations?
I'm not here to speak on behalf of any other indigenous organization, media organization. But I think by having an indigenous name that represents who you are, your language and culture, further supports and strengthens your identity and the role that you play in our communities. And that is a key reason why we've made the move. We don't need an English name to be our identity. We have a rich, strong, vibrant culture and identity, and I just encourage others to think about that. It's not a criticism of anyone else, but I think, though, that sitting here today thinking about our new name that gives us an even stronger identity is such an amazing thing, not only for me to feel, but also to be able to walk and talk in our communities, knowing that Whakaata Māori is the new name of our entity, of the movement that we are part of. And so I think that that is an aspiration for all of us to think about, and something for us all to be able to give effect to.
Shane, thank you for your sharing. I believe this action is a work that needs to be done, and it also brings awareness and inspiration to the world and other indigenous media organizations. 好，换上新名字的毛利电视台呢，除了要重新定位自己的角色，也将和毛利族人一起监督和落实新名字的意义。感谢您今天的收看，祝您平安，再会。